Africa cannot sit just as a quiet victim with cup in hand, begging these nations to change their minds. Africa has to take its destiny into its own hands. Thank you very much. The first step towards healing is truth. The truth about the story of the transatlantic slave trade must be told. And this resolution at the United Nations is the first step. And we expect that with the consultations we've done and the endorsement of the AU, that finally the truth about the transatlantic slave trade being the gravest injustice and crime against humanity would be acknowledged. After that step, other issues will follow. Indeed, the issue of reparations and restitutive justice goes beyond, and that is in answer to the first question, just monetary compensation. It's about setting the historical record straight. It's about returning stolen artifacts from Africa. It's about the pillaging that took place in the period of the slave trade. Issues about quantum are still being researched, and I don't think that a lump sum of money is going to be taken and distributed to countries. We'll get to that point and we'll discuss that when the time comes. But for now, our aim is to put the resolution on the floor, let the world acknowledge that this happened and that there's been, in recent memory or in world history, no more grave injustice against humanity than the slave trade. 12 million people were transported, forcibly taken and transported across the Atlantic. The number of people who died in the mid-sea, the Middle Passage, is estimated at about 2 million people, either people who jumped off ships, they prefer to die than to go and live in slavery, or people who were too ill or were sick and were tossed overboard to be eaten by sharks and all that. And so that historical record must be set straight. And like I said, it's a whole movement, it's a whole story. And once we table this, we will move to the next stage of it. And so it's not about quantum for now, but there are people who have done research on what the value of the human displacement was. There are people who have done that research, but our resolution has nothing to do with quantum for now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We have engaged CARICOM effectively, and I believe that I can say with confidence that today Africa and CARICOM are speaking with one voice. Indeed, the CARICOM 50th CARICOM Summit, as I said in my statement, is about to take place before the end of this month. And this issue of reparations and restitutive justice is going to be something on the agenda of that CARICOM meeting. But I can tell you that we've held adequate consultations with the leaders of the CARICOM nations, with the institutions in the CARICOM nations, and we're speaking with one voice on this matter.
Okay, can our colleague, can you come again with your last question? Yes, please. Yeah. Yes.
At Accra Reset Addis Reckoning event, you said that Africa has reached a turning point that we cannot afford to ignore. Why you said that, and what is expected from African nations, including the AU?
Thank you very much. I think you're referring to the issue of the Health Sovereignty Conference we held in Accra, which gave birth to the whole movement of Accra Reset. It is widely acknowledged that the world is at an inflection point. The multilateral system that was agreed post-Second World War, that led to the emergence of the United Nations, is currently threatened. I wouldn't say it's broken down completely, but nations are acting unilaterally. Nations are acting in their own national interest. Humanitarian assistance is dwindling. Overseas development assistance to not only Africa but to the global south is dwindling because nations believe that they must invest those resources to the benefit of their own people. Africa cannot sit just as a quiet victim with cup in hand, begging these nations to change their minds. Africa has to take its destiny into its own hands. And that was the reason for the Accra Reset. It focused on health sovereignty because health is at the core of everything we do. And so if you remember in COVID-19, Africa was the last to be thought about when a vaccine was found. And Africa was the last to begin to receive vaccines. That shows you our place if we don't take our destiny into our own hands. And so it was first about how we could structure things so that Africa could begin to speak with one voice, prioritize and act collectively in the interest of our people in terms of healthcare. But the Accra Reset goes beyond just healthcare. It goes into other areas, talks about the global economic order, the breaking down of the global economic order, what new system will replace it, and what will Africa's role be in that new system. It talks about value addition to areas in which we have a comparative advantage, our mineral ores, our critical minerals, rare earths, and all that. Bringing value addition home so that we can create opportunities for our young people to be able to stay at home and work and not risk their lives crossing the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea to go look for opportunities in Europe. That is the conversation we're having, and I'm very happy to announce to you that it's beginning to develop a lot of traction. Many other African countries are coming on board, not only African countries, but even the global south. Indonesia, Singapore, and all of them have bought into the idea of the Accra Reset. We want the global south to be positioned at the table when a new global order is being rolled out.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Your Excellency, the President. Our briefing has come to an end. Excellency, do you have a minute to take an extra question?
Okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
All right, please go ahead.
I'm very gender sensitive, so because it's a woman, I would allow it.
I'm Angela Harding. I'm a lawyer from Sierra Leone. My question is, does the resolutions anticipate litigation in international courts or regional courts as part of its implementations?
Litigation. Does it anticipate litigation in international courts? We'll be ready for.
Well, I think that we want to forge a broad consensus behind the idea of reparations and restitutive justice. But we don't rule out anything. But I don't think that that is the way to go at this stage. For now, I believe that we can forge a broad consensus. Even the countries that were involved in slavery acknowledge that it was a crime against humanity. A lot of them acknowledge the misery it caused to Africa. A lot of them acknowledge, the pain it caused to victims of slavery. We need to, as a world, accept that history and have it recorded on the biggest platform that the world has, which is the UN General Assembly, to accept that this is our description of slavery.
Welcome back. That was a speech, very powerful speech from at least one of the African leader who is demanding justice for injustices. And the truth, what he has tried to say is the facts. The truth must be acknowledged. The truth must be acknowledged. The truth about the transatlantic slave trade, whereby 12 million people were taken out of Africa to be sold out, and 2 million of them just died across the way. Some of them were thrown on the sea, in the sea to be eaten by sharks and other sea creatures. And that is the truth that the world today is not ready to address or to let the people know. And when we as Africans try to speak about this, they're coming with some things that does not connect to the truth. And the truth about the reparation is the only thing that today I think African leaders would have been discussing with the global powers, because what the damage that was created here in Africa is still what is affecting the world, the African continent today. And this is what is making Africa not to grow, because through this, we are still having world leaders who are still interested in Africa despite all that happened. And they are not ready to allow the truth to be told so that they can be told what happened and what they caused and how it affected even up to this moment of time, and how other people are still traumatized just from all that happened. So Ghanaian president is one of the leaders today who is trying to speak the truth and are trying to face the world leaders, telling them what happened and what is still happening today. Now, transatlantic slave trade happened in Africa. This was done a long time ago. And when we speak about this time, there's some people who are saying that this is a narrative, a long time story that we don't have even to address today. But the same people who are coming to say this, they're the same people today who are still benefiting from that incident. Because all that happened all that long time ago, it is still the kind of the life that some people are still living on the back of it. Because we today are not saying that the current generation of America, Europe, Britain are the one who enslaved Africans, but they are benefiting from all that happened during the time of slavery. Because of what happened is what is making them to live in a comfort zone. Because during the time of the black people who are taken to go and build these great empires as slaves, they are the one who made these great empires to be great as how it is today. And that is why today they are seeing themselves, or they are being carried themselves like superior people and looking towards the black people as inferior, as the people who don't deserve to be entitled and all this. So there is a lot that's still going on. And there is a time, I think, as African leaders, it is a time of acting, but not of speeches, because we have had a lot of speeches. We have had enough speeches when you are holding all these summits at AU, at UN. You are going to repeat the same. You are going to repeat the same. But after that, what is happening? After you go back to your countries, what is happening? That's all that we need to ask as Africans, because you are going to represent Africans. When you are going to speak again about all these sceneries, then you are speaking, representing all the black people and African entirely. But after these speeches, what is happening? What is going to be done? That's the question that we as Africans, we are asking, because it is so, we are so proud to see how the African leaders today are showing their boldness by confronting all the world leaders and telling them the truth. Because for the longest time, this is something that was never happening. They were going to sit for these summits. They issue their statements, their speeches. They're being clapped, but nothing's happening. They're still coming back to their countries as beggars because of what they're being given. What they're being offered is making them to forget everything that made them to go and attend these summits. So reparation is the language today that we at least need to speak at this time. We need reparation. The truth must be acknowledged that every stolen artifacts and all this, everything that was at least taken from the continent to be returned back. The resources of African continent to be protected. And the African continent making or building their own negotiating team, so that at least they can go to negotiate across the world, knowing that this is what we have. And for some people to come and access to African continent, they are going to access through this and through this. These are the things that that are supposed to be followed, but not as how the things have been always happening, whereby the people who are not from the continent are the ones who are coming to make a decision of all that we are having. They're the people who are coming to tell us what to do with our own resources. They're the same people who are coming to tell us who to trade with, who to give out our resources, and who to partner with. This is something that at least the world, the African leaders should have been going to address. Today, the majority of African youths are dying across Sahara, across Sahara deserts, across Atlantic oceans, going to seek for green pastures across Europe. Because in our minds, most of us who have still not wake up, in our minds, we all know that for the African youth to get what the life that he deserves, he or she must go to Europe, to America, to Asia, because in Africa we have nothing. And at the same time, the continent or the place that we are going, the people from the same place are coming back to Africa because they feel like in Africa is the only place that they can get what they can make them to get what they want in life. So things are happening in a different way. Because what they installed in Africans' minds is that life is best in Europe. Life is very and much better in Europe than in Africa. Then if that is what that was the truth, we sometimes have to ask some questions. Why are they coming to spend much of their dollars and euros in Africa with nothing in return, just to explore, just to come and experience the best climates, the best foods, cultures, and everything? Why are they coming if their place are the best, is the most beautiful and great place to be, a place that you can have what you want? So this narrative that was installed in African mind is what, at least at this time, most of the African youths need to erase and at least start to think something different from what you are made to believe. Because the life that we have been always living in is the life that we are told to believe in, the life that we were shaped to believe in, but not the life that we believed in ourselves, not the life that we know that this is the truth, the original life of the African or the black man. So it is the time that I think what is supposed to be brought on the table is the basic facts about the African and the black people, what is happening, what we supposed to be doing, at least to make ourselves to be sure to be seen across the world as the superior people, as the powerful people, as the most important people, because the black man is the most important person. African continent is the best continent because all that the continent is having, no any other continent is having. That's why they are fighting against this great continent. They are fighting so that they can have one of the superior who is controlling this great continent. They are not fighting because they love you, because they love me, no. But they are fighting because they are so interested of what we are having, but not what or who we are. So whenever they come here, we view them as saviors, as helpers, but they're just here for their own interest. I think this is the time we have to say that enough is enough, and their time has come to an end, and we need to control ourselves. We need to control ourselves, to control all that we are having, and to make the decision of our own, but not being made in any other places. This is the time of each and every African leader and African to make the conclusion of the long-term problem that we have been facing. Be blessed, origin from this is the speech of the recent UN or African Union Summit, and that was the speech, the bold speech of one of the African patriot leader, John Mahama of Ghana. Let me have you in the comment section. What do you think about this video? And be blessed.